Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
We're also just taking Meek Mill at his word.
Right.
Like Meek Mill
I said that to
Man of
Fred.
integrity.
knows
What are you
everything.
talking about?
And I'm talking about my colleagues right now. Ran with Lamar Jackson wants to play for the Patriots, according to a rapper.
Could be Meek Mill heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody who heard it from somebody, and it's just passing it along.
Meek Mill is all of a sudden Adam Schefter.
Brandon writes in about Fredism. Please go ahead and mark where Fred said, "I'll never forget the game. I forget. I'll never forget that game." I don't know what I forget. Maybe I don't know if it was a preseason game or something, or first or second game of the typical Fred.
You have a lot of those.
You like that, Al? That really got you, huh?
She's like giggling
Good
over
for
there.
you.
She's just thinking of Lamar
I
Jackson
am.
going
The
in the
content
hair.
I could make with Lamar Jackson.
Meek Mill has been very overrated as an artist. I'm sorry.
I do not listen to Evan's point of view on rap, so.
Okay.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Fueled by Duncan.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Thursday here at Gillette Stadium, and that means you can see us. Hey, how you doing? And you can see Deuce.
I should probably not be texting then, huh? I forgot.
I'm doing the same
I
thing.
spy Deuce. I spy Evan. I spy Paul, myself, Matt in the booth. No Tamara. She's still recovering from the owners' meeting, Deuce?
No, I think she is in Texas.
I know. I'm only
sorry.
kidding.
All right.
Yeah.
No, she was fine out there. She didn't get in any trouble.
Yeah.
Make
And
sure.
no
No Alex.
Yeah.
No. Maybe
I
community.
did a little more research on the rap game.
She's so disgusted after the rap views from last show. She's never going to come here again.
I know, not even for video. Usually that gets her down here.
Right.
You know, chance to get.
Oh,
her
is
face
that
on
right?
screen.
Yeah,
The FaceTime is big.
Oh,
Fully
sure.
fully admitted it. She's fully admitted.
She
it.
tweeted
That's
out
funny.
a list after the show yesterday of her favorite rappers. There's like
She did.
15 artists long. It's like this is like my favorite draft crushes. It's like I could be here all day, right? You know, let's narrow it down
Evan's
a little
top
bit.
100 and it was funny
draft
because on the show she had mentioned that Kendrick was like by far and away her favorite, and the list didn't include Kendrick.
Yeah.
And then she had to.
Oh man, she really got into it.
She
huh?
had to follow up by saying that I thought that went without saying. Obviously, Kendrick is.
Well, I'm glad I wasn't
the
here
top.
for it. I have nothing to add to that conversation. So.
I had very little to add other than just my minute knowledge.
Remember the '70s?
Well,
I told you, Sugar Hill gang.
Well, aside from rap, when it comes to football,
yeah.
fans are still abuzz about the comments made at the owners' meeting on Monday. Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick. Since then, Bill Belichick was at a pro day, and I guess Jim McBride was there. Is that how this transpired?
Yeah, LSU, I believe. Yeah.
LSU and
You mean Patriots PR was there?
yeah.
Oh!
Wow! And he told Jim
We
that
don't really make fun of other media here on this show.
No.
Said Paul.
Not allowed.
Eyeball emoji.
he I don't know if it was a clarification, but kind of made it clear to Jim McBride that no, the Patriots are not resting on their laurels. It's not how we've ever done things here, and it's not how we're doing things. But didn't really explain the comments. So
Yeah.
it's still out there, and it was still not the brand of Bill Belichick, the Patriot Way brand, and things aren't, right now, and I also include the owner's comments. I'm not sure that any of those things were in the best interest of the team this year, but they are what they are, and at some point I think the owner and the coach need to just sit down pretty soon and just say, all right.
You would have thought it would have
Yeah.
happened already after how last
Yeah.
season went and the changes that needed to happen and all of those
Yeah,
things.
let's get on the same page here. We got football games to win. Are we going after Lamar or not? I think, Bedard, one of Paul's guys, he came out. I don't know what his source is, but he reported as fact that the Patriots aren't going to be pursuing Lamar Jackson.
As did Jeff Howe.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
multiple, and that's all I asked for on Tuesday was like, can we fact check Meek Mill a little bit before we just run with this as this huge story?
I think people want to believe it.
Oh, of course.
I'm included in that.
Of course.
I'm included in that. But according to now, Jeff Howe, you say as well, did he just cited it? What a
Source.
A Patriot source, league source? What source did he cite?
No, just
I saw a tweet it had said per source.
Per source. Okay.
I don't.
What kind of source was it?
I didn't click on the article.
Yeah.
This is a my generation problem. I'm
So
sorry.
so two people are saying it.
I do the same thing.
I would have to imagine that if the Patriots were pursuing Lamar Jackson, somehow it would have gotten out there already.
Well, coming back from the owners' meetings where I was in Arizona for the last couple of days, I just thought we all thought it was funny that it seemed totally planned by Lamar Jackson to reveal the trade request like 6 minutes before we were supposed to sit down with Jim Harbaugh. So I know there's a lot to unpack. I just can't get over the fact that because of how these things have unfolded, that there's going to be a segment of Patriots Nation that even if Lamar Jackson signs back with Baltimore, they're going to hold it against Bill Belichick that the Patriots did not sign him. And I think that's what's kind of been set up. And I think a lot of the tension of this season just feels to be rising. And, just all of the comments of what needs to happen, making the playoffs, didn't feel like an ultimatum necessarily, but it kind of maybe did a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, it kind of is like a subtext, but I think that this is not doing Mac Jones any favors, this whole thing.
Yeah.
And
I got some comments on that just because, look, I do think first off the top, I think it's weird that, you just can't really seem to get out of Bill that Mac is the starter anymore. And he had some positive statements last year after the offseason, which is fine. I don't think he necessarily came out and said, oh, Mac is our guy, and he's, but just that he had improved. So on one hand, I understand that Bill wants to have Mac compete and to come in and not feel like he can, that he's still on the hot seat. I get that kind of part of it. But it is weird that he won't really put his support behind him to an extent. With Robert's comments, though, I just felt like he was saying, I like this kid. I don't think he was saying, I think this kid is, the answer, the start. I just think he was saying, I really like Mac Jones, and I think we need to do more around him, which I agree with.
No, he definitely said that. Like, he has a lot of faith in Mac Jones and, excited, thinks he's a good player and all that stuff. He said that. But he also said that Meek Mill, and that's Bill's decision. And, you don't even say that if you believe in your quarterback. You don't bring that out there because why are you talking about somebody else?
Right. And
what about me? And so you don't do that as a coach or an owner or another teammate or anyone.
I would just tie it real quick. The next day I listened to Dan Campbell talk, and the way he talked about Jared Goff was like, thank God we've got a guy. It was like, and I think, Jared Goff is what he is. We saw a pretty rough performance from him last year and in the Super Bowl, but it was a little bit of contrast to me of, does anybody think he's the next coming?
John Lynch put more faith in Brock Purdy recently than anyone here has in Mac. I don't think that's
Does this mean we have to give him a pass in year 3 too?
Well, even if you're faking
just let me know how that's going to work.
The unwritten rule in NFL and really all sports is even if you're faking it, you always pump up your own guy.
Yeah. I think it's hard coming off the season that we had, and there's a lot of finger pointing, amongst everyone, fans, coach, all that, but it is just a little weird, and I don't know. I think Mac's an interesting kid. He's always kind of played for hard-ass coaches, going back to high school, the legendary coach down there at Bulls, Nick Saban, of course. So, on one hand, I feel like Mac should kind of be used to this, like no one's ever going to give you any credit, and you got to have to earn everything of it, but at the same time, I just wonder if it might be worth a little bit to, just give him a little bit of reassurance through the press, because so far, and even Devin, Devin's point at his retirement ceremony is pointing out Mac being there and kind of praising him, and then 3 days later, he's like, you got to make that call on Lamar Jackson. I'm like, well, what is it? Devin, do you believe in Mac, or do you think you just have to go all in for Lamar Jackson no matter what? So I think there's just so many rotating points of view right now. It's hard to really pin down what's going to happen over the next few months.
I know we've never gone through. In the last 23 years or so, we haven't gone through this with, the fact that you really don't have the guy.
Yeah.
Cam Newton got here, and we said it on this show. There's no competition. Cam Newton's the starting quarterback, and he was. And it wasn't until we drafted Mac that now all of a sudden we got to wonder, what's going on here? But up until that point, we knew who our quarterback was for the last 2 decades.
And even then, to your point, Fred, when they drafted Mac Jones, you knew Mac Jones was the guy.
Right.
You just didn't know when he was going to take over for Cam Newton, but you knew you don't draft a guy with the 15th overall pick with the idea of he's never going to be the starting quarterback.
Right.
he was going to be the starting quarterback. It was a matter of when.
And then all of a sudden, Patriots release Cam Newton. Oh,
so
and there it is.
So this is new to us.
The only one Eric ever got right.
Yeah.
I think I think I speak for a lot of people when I say my frustration level with the team, and you just said it, Fred. I will admit that my age is playing against me here because I've never really had a time to be frustrated with the team. My frustration with the team right now is at an all-time high. I have never been more frustrated, speaking as a fan right now, about the messaging from the team, the direction of the team, the overall philosophy of the roster with the team, all of it in general. And I look at what's going on with the quarterback position, and if this was the Jets and the Jets were doing this to their young quarterback, we'd be like, they're ruining another one, right? Like this is what you do.
Yep.
And I think that there's a method to a madness of Bill Belichick that maybe he's trying to motivate Mac Jones.
Yes.
That's the only thing that I can hang on to, is that he thinks because Mac had to battle his way onto the field at Alabama and was a 3-star recruit and then had some haters, quite frankly, in the draft, and still does very much so, that maybe that he's a guy that's motivated by that sort of thing. But at the same time, I just feel like they have checked so many boxes of how to ruin this kid. And I'm actually to the point now where it's, if you don't believe in him, then go get somebody else. If you don't think that he's good enough, or he's going to be a guy, or he's going to be a franchise level quarterback, or whatever the case may be, then why are we wasting time with him? Then go draft Will Levis, or go trade for Lamar Jackson, or do whatever. I mean, if they truly feel this way, then why weren't they in the sweepstakes for Aaron Rodgers?
Well, and that's part of the frustration is we don't know how they feel. We really don't.
But everything that they have said through the media, especially the head coach, is very, very. I think he feels the same way as all of us, that if you put Mac in a cushiony situation with the right offensive coordinator, with good playmakers around him, that you can win with Mac Jones. But you're not going to win because of Mac Jones. And if they truly feel that way, and this is the way that they want to build the team, which is value and being methodical and being careful with what they're spending and who they're spending it on, then you can't win with a quarterback that you just win with. You can't pull a quarterback to a Super Bowl or being contending status unless you're going to go out and spend like crazy and make trades and make acquisitions like crazy, like the 49ers have, or like the Eagles or the Dolphins or these other teams that I think weren't totally sold after 2 years on their quarterbacks, or 49ers are unique situation. But this type of team building process with a quarterback that you don't believe in, you're going to be 8-9 every single year.
Yeah. So that's kind of like where we are. We're in the wilderness. Yeah. We're searching for that right combination.
I had one more funny little interaction at the owners meeting with a member of the Tampa Bay media who I forget, really nice guy. We were just kind of waiting for Robert to come out and started talking to him, and it was kind of like, man, the circus has left town for us. Even like Todd Bowles' table, nobody really there. And I'm like, welcome to the club, dude. Like, we're back trying to find a quarterback. It was just funny to see another team kind of going in that post-Brady wake of like, oh, man, it's so hard. Now what,
Yeah.
Welcome to the party. It's
especially for them, they were irrelevant and then very relevant for a very short period of time, and now probably facing irrelevance again. Even as a media guy, like you want to cover a team that is at least involved. Like you don't want to be covering,
it's got some juice.
The Cleveland Browns and be 5-11 every year.
Yeah,
I know, and that's why I feel we're used to being, man. I feel really good about the roster, and I'm excited to get into training camp and to see some of these players, how it comes together. And right now, I almost feel like I don't want to say I'm excited for the drama, but I almost feel like that's my storyline right now of like, is Mac really in a competition? Like what's Gerard Mayo doing? Like how is the coaching configured this year? Where's Joe Judge? Like those kind of things are at the top of my mind right now. And it's less about like, wow, Juju Smith-Schuster, like, he'll be, fine. Like
we didn't really talk about that on Tuesday, the whole possibility. How did Bill put it? Like everybody will have
an opportunity. To compete.
Do you really think that there's there will be a true competition between Zappy and Mac?
No.
I don't either.
I don't think it'll be a fair competition. Like I think Mac will get
in Zappy's
the majority of
so, like,
the
if Mac
of the real
completes a
reps.
pass, like no, I've seen enough.
So you and I agree, Paul, but here's the real question. Should there be one?
I don't really think so.
I don't
I
either.
think Mac.
I don't
I
either.
think Mac deserves to be
Right.
with Bill O'Brien,
you know,
give him a benefit of the doubt.
I think Mac
Yeah.
deserves that. That might surprise some people based on the way I talk about Mac, but I think Mac deserves to go into the season with no asterisks, with no second guesses, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think it will. I also don't think that Bailey Zappi is more than a backup, so maybe that's clouding my judgment a little bit. Maybe if it was a stronger, if it was a Garoppolo-like guy behind him, in 2014, coming into the 15 season, say, maybe I would feel different because I saw some stuff from Garoppolo as a rookie, in the preseason and things that I didn't really see from Zappi. Maybe I'd feel better.
If you were Bailey Zappi in his shoes, do you feel like there's blood in the water a little bit though? Like, do you feel like I might get a chance?
Absolutely.
If I were Zappi, I would be. I'd be.
I'm just going to stay ready. I'm going to make the most of my opportunities. But I would believe if I was Bailey Zappi that my opportunity is going to happen at some point, and I just need to be ready for it.
Not to wish injury upon anybody, but this time around, if Mac gets hurt and Bailey comes in and plays as well as he did last year, the job ain't going back.
Yeah.
That's
I agree with Evan.
I think Bill O'Brien is a little bit of the wild card too.
Well, how good was Mac playing when he got injured?
Not just so.
Okay, so then you're right. But if he's really playing well and he got injured, then he does get it back. You got to.
It's tough.
It's
Maybe.
No, but you missed the rest of what he said. And Zappi goes in and plays really well.
Yeah, but you'd have to have played better than Mac was playing.
Yeah. And I think that happened last year, and Mac got his job back.
Right.
I think Evan's point is if it happens again like that,
he might
not get the job back.
Yeah, same.
I agree
same
with Evan's
scenario.
point.
Yeah, but I think that from the opening of camp, as a viewer, there should be no doubt who the starting quarterback of the Patriots is.
Yeah.
That's how I feel.
Do you think the head coach feels that way?
I think we'll see.
I don't know.
I do. I think that he's kind of like what you're talking about.
I don't think we can waste time with the first 2 weeks of camp figuring that out.
Well, I mean, I would say go to
he'll figure it out in the
2021
spring.
when you had Cam and Mac here and how that played out.
If he's truly looking to figure it out, he'll figure it out in the spring.
How? According
OTAs.
Yeah, I know, but that's not. You're not doing anything to show who's better than the other guy.
But here's my point. How many times do we go out there in the spring and see player X lined up at one spot, and that guy is the guy all the way through? Like, they make these decisions. Like, I decided that Ronnie Perkins wasn't part of the equation in the spring.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I didn't have to wait for training camp and the preseason games to see him not getting reps because he's behind 17 guys in the spring.
Right. So, no, I agree with that. So in the spring, we should see Mac Jones getting, oh, yeah. It'd be clear. The spring isn't any time to make any competition evaluation.
No, I'm just saying that they'll have decided.
I agree with that.
And so for whatever how they do it, whether it's participation in the program, stuff in the meeting rooms, on whiteboards, film stuff, whatever they do, they have their depth chart pretty much estabate before training camp even starts.
And they should, and it should be Mac at the top of it.
I do.
Well,
I mean,
I agree with you. But.
Some I hate to say this phrase, but talking to some people, those spring practices are way more intense than I ever realized, and I've learned that over the last few weeks, just generally. But that it is as intense as training camp is in terms of putting film up, studying what went wrong, grilling guys, all that stuff. So I totally agree with Paul. I just think the wild card right here for me is Bill O'Brien. Because he knows exactly what he wants, exactly what he's looking for from a quarterback. How does he feel about these two guys, and how well are they able to execute what he wants?
Now, the only caveat that I would say against our argument is, like, a lot of times availability has a lot to do with those spots in the spring because, guys are coming off surgeries. They're not quite ready to go.
Trey Nixon last spring.
Right. Bombs away to Trey Nixon.
Trey Nixon's getting, a lot of reps, and it's because other guys weren't necessarily is actively involved. And I forget I
think Myers was.
I forget the specifics of all the
Bourne
different receivers. I think
wasn't
Aguilar
there
missed
for a
some
little
time
bit.
in the
He got
spring
married.
too.
Yeah, he got married, yeah.
I think Aguilar missed some time in the spring too, if I'm not mistaken. But he also caught some deep balls in the spring.
He did.
And Parker, was doing the same kind of stuff. So I just think that's the one caveat that I would say. A lot of times that happens on the offensive line. 3 offensive linemen are dealing with off-season surgeries. They're not ready to go, in May. And, it looks like, Chasen Hines is making a push for a starting job.
It's just because he's the only guy.
Not really.
But like you put to your point too, the Wynn-Brown swap. Didn't we kind of see that in
Yes.
ways? And
First
we were
day,
like,
first day
You know?
that we got a chance to watch, they were at the opposite sides, and it never changed.
Yep.
So sometimes sometimes Bill moves guys around in an effort to create depth, and sometimes it means exactly what it is. He shows you exactly what it is on day one.
Yeah. So that's the status quo right now.
The status is quo.
What's our next milestone?
item on the
so you have the
docket?
owners meeting. Next one is the draft, right? There's really
Draft,
nothing
yeah.
now between
is,
this and the draft.
Which again, like this is it. Like this is what it's about, you know.
Yeah.
And I totally get what people are upset about with free agency and and them doing it the way they do it. But just to continue to hammer that
How about
point,
them doing the draft the way they do it?
and so to Evan's point, 2021. Hey, maybe we've changed some things around. This last year. So you've had 2 examples in the last 2 years of it going both ways. How's it going to go this year? I mean, and I think we all know what they need. Yeah.
0. I like I said at the beginning, I'm at an all-time frustration
So you
level.
expect to be apoplectic on your first PU draft show?
Absolutely.
I disagree. I'm optimistic about the draft. I think when you look
one of
at
their guys.
when you look at the stuff we've put up on Patriots.com, the behind the scenes for the Shrine Bowl, we're about to drop behind the scenes from the Combine, that whole thing. There's a lot of young guys in the room, in the personnel room.
But
these
do
days.
any of them have a say?
I just maybe not, but I'm hopeful that led by Matt Groh, a lot of these young guys do have a say, and that will affect how they draft. There's a lot of young guys in the Patriots draft.
right.
I mean, I would wonder, who was like, how did it all? I mean, I think we all have our opinions on how the Cole Strange of it all went down, how the Tyquan Thornton of it all went down. But if it isn't the way we did, how are those picks viewed now? If, like, let's say maybe what people don't think, maybe it was Macro banging the table for Cole. I don't know. But, are things going to change? Like, I don't know whose picks those were, but I don't think it was, I don't think last year's draft was the home run that they needed. And now it just puts more pressure on this year.
Yep.
The one guy, I like Macro a lot, and I like Cam Williams a lot. I've gotten to know him a little bit at the Shrine Bowl, and was at BC's Pro Day the other day, and he went to Ohio State. Cam Williams did play football for the Buckeyes, linebacker, and they really don't like Ohio State guys in the draft. They never draft Buckeyes. So I made a joke about that with him, talking to him, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, DeJuan Jones, Paris Johnson, Zach Harris. I mean, there's a lot of Buckeyes. Every year there's a lot of Buckeyes. But in this draft, there's a lot of guys that fit in their range of the draft that are going to be on the board. And you just wonder if, like, one of those trends ends up breaking because there's a guy in the room that now has Ohio State bloodlines and is pounding the table for JSN. And so they actually go out and draft a Buckeye, Who
was the last Buckeye that they drafted in the first 2 rounds? Was it Andy Katzenmoyer?
I was going to say, that's the only one that comes to mind for me.
The only guy
Before that, it was Terry Glenn, right?
So the only Ohio State guy that I can think of that they drafted anywhere recently was Nate Ebner, and he was a day 3 rugby player that they took a special teams flyer on.
He didn't even play football.
Katzenmoyer, that's not a Belichick pick. That predates Belichick.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That was a Pete Carroll pick.
Ebner might be
Bobby
their
Greer.
only Ohio State guy that Belichick's ever drafted, which was a very...
Yeah.
That is a little odd. I never really thought of it. I mean, that is a premier program that has been at the top of the game for the entirety of Belichick's tenure.
The other one is Penn State. They don't take Penn State guys either. Never have. And so Joey Porter Jr., Penn State.
Yeah.
They going to take a Penn State guy or are they not? There's programs like that. Everybody connects Iowa to the Patriots because of Kirk Ferentz. They've taken one Iowa player in the whole Belichick.
But see, I always wonder with these things, like, is it really an aversion to that particular program, or is it just kind of the way it's worked out?
It's starting to paint a picture for me that he doesn't like the Big Ten, which I would agree with him on.
But
ironically
a lot of
enough,
Michigan guys.
But to me, the separation would be Ohio State. I would stay away from the Big Ten in general, but I wouldn't stay away from Ohio State.
No, the best team. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, he has drafted Michigan guys.
But it's like even to like Cole Strange. I'm sure Cole Strange is the pick, all things considered. That broke some kind of trend that, like he's never taken a small school.
They never taken a
first-round
Power 5 lineman until Strange, or non-Power 5 lineman in years until Strange. So that was definitely
Strange.
a trend breaker.
Well, call me a sucker, but I'm always
Yes,
optimistic going into the draft.
In this respect, you're a sucker.
I am too, though. I have that. I still have that cockeyed optimist about the draft, just because I like the energy of getting new young players in, even if they're not the guys you totally wanted. And this is Cole Strange, a great example of just a guy that, football aside, it's nice to get these guys who are good, young, tough football players in. Maybe it's not where people want it. I am remaining optimistic about it. I have
Me
to
too.
be.
Like,
because
I'm
if
not
they
as down. Like, listen, the recent track record is what it is. There's not really. I mean, aside of the wall guys, the Jerry Thorntons will defend it. I won't. I mean, it hasn't been good the last 5 or 6 years. Generally, they've had some good draft picks, but I'm not as down on Belichick in general, the drafter, as a lot of other people. I remember Andy used to yell at me all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Fred.
You called him a very good drafter, and he didn't like
Andy
that.
wanted to come across the table at me. Like,
Right.
It's intense.
Maybe I'd have to take the very away from it now because of what's happened the last 4 or 5 years. But I think there has been enough examples of him really having strong draft classes that I don't think it was Pioli. I don't think it was Caserio. I don't think it's Ziegler, and I don't think it's Matt Groh. I think it's Bill Belichick. I've always thought that, and I always will until he's no longer in that job.
Yeah, but I think to that point, though, Paul, I mean, look at like the 2019 draft now. It's just like, as you're getting post-Brady, like that's a death sentence.
I can't argue.
That's a death sentence,
I can't argue. I argue everything. I can't argue this.
And
he hasn't been good lately.
And there, I'm sure that you could go back into the early 2000s and, that draft stunk, and I'm sure that there were a couple, but it's just unfortunately the timing of it all. When you lost Brady, this is when you needed to hit home runs out of the draft.
The reason that you're in this position,
that's it.
Is that
I can't get on them if they take Zay Flowers in the first round and he ends up being bad. He ends up being a bust.
Because you get it.
Can't get on them. Like, okay, you drafted a name brand guy who's a first round pick from everybody's board, and he just didn't work out. Like, okay, fine. But we're not in the time anymore where they can go off the beaten path like they did last year with Cole Strange, or even like they did with Devin McCourty. I thought that was really interesting from his retirement press conference, talking about how he really wasn't a consensus first round guy when they took him, but they had they were able to take those risks back then and able to take guys that I think what he's good at, Bill, is taking guys that fit the program, that fit a specific role in the system. Like, we know that this guy's going to do this, and this, and he's going to play here. But they need guys that are just transcendent talents, that are just elite talents, that doesn't matter where you plug them in. It doesn't matter if they're playing here, or if they're playing in a West Coast system or a spread scheme, whatever. They're just good football players, and they're going to be good football players anyway.
It's almost like you get in trouble with the draft when blank, and one of those answers is when you overthink it.
Yeah.
When you overthink it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say that
now,
to trading up and down.
Obviously, you have to do your due diligence. You have to look into the past. You have to look into character. You have to, you can't overthink that. But when you overthink the tape.
But one of the overthoughts for him is what Mike just kind of touched on. And I don't have a problem with trading and moving around, but I think that they have the idea of trading for them is, I think, and this is not anything I have any proof of, specifically with a mindset of, I like 3 or 4 players. I'm going to move down. One of them is going to be available. And I don't like that idea because I don't ever think guys are the same.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not okay if I can get Mike, Paul, or Evan at 29 instead of 21. I don't like that philosophy, and I think Bill adheres to it. I think. I don't know. I think he does.
Yeah. But see, I don't mind that.
I think one of them out of Mike, Evan, and Paul is the pick.
But
and take them. Don't roll the dice that they're going to be available.
See, I don't mind that
later.
as long as your evaluation is sound. If it's true what you're saying, that's good, and then I can get one of those guys and another pick.
And I think I'm not going to give you all the examples because, again, I don't have definitive proof. But I think there are examples when they've done that, and it's really hurt them.
Yeah, and I think
one of them happened last year in the first round.
Yeah, and then I could argue, okay, their evaluation wasn't sound. Like, they were wrong in the fact that they could get equal value later. They were wrong.
But I would say that for, just on surface, the higher you pick, the better the player. So it's not even, it's like, to me, it's a philosophy that's wrong. Like, if you can sit there and say, they're all the same. They're not all the same. And Bill tells you that they're not all the same. He says it all the time, just like he says players are never staying the same from one year to the next. You're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're not staying the same. So why does he think, well, it doesn't really matter which guy I get? I trust you. You're the greatest coach who's ever coached. I trust you to pick the guy that is better.
Right, but then to
the
that
more
point,
talented guy. That's the guy I want.
The only time I disagree is you probably could have gotten an equivalent to Cole Strange if you just waited a little while.
And that's probably not a great example because I think that was a panic reach is what I think it was.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think there have been examples where
panic reach. I like that.
He's just decided it doesn't matter. I might need a corner. I might need one of those guys would be available, and then I'll take Ross Darling, because he's available.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you've heard it. I think I've heard the saying, trust your board. Yeah. You spend all this offseason and really the whole season before building a board. And once you get to draft day, trust it. Trust it. If you've got these three guys stacked, trust your board. Don't.
Because we do stack it vertically as well as horizontally.
But don't throw away all the work that you've done to build that board on draft day because for a panic reach or whatever. Trust your board because there's been a lot of work that went into building that board.
Yeah, whose work and what board?
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the problem to me.
Yeah.
It just looking at it from an outside perspective. I admit I have, like Paul says, I have no inside information on this whatsoever. But I would bet a lot of money that Matt Groh's board and Bill Belichick's board do not look the same.
I disagree. I think it's one board. I think it's one board with Bill making the ultimate decision.
I think that I can't envision a scenario where the conversations that I'm able to have with Matt Groh, that man thought that Cole Strange was the right pick in the first round last year. I can't have that. And Bill clearly loved him and took him.
I mean, maybe Bill has a little scrap piece of paper with his own thing, but when we go in with our cameras on draft day, there's one board that
of course there's one board.
There's one board, and Bill ultimately sets it.
Yeah. Well,
but I think Evan's point is, if they were going in with one board and it was up to Matt Groh, it wouldn't look the same as the one that they go in with.
I didn't say it was up to. I just said it's up to Bill.
I get that.
Yeah.
But when I'm speaking for you.
No,
you're when Evan's saying I think Matt Groh would have a board that looks a lot different than Bill's. He's not suggesting they go in with two different boards, and Matt Groh says, no, we should take this guy because I have him here, and Bill says, no, I'm going to override you. No. Bill ultimately decides, and he might have guys that are way differently ranked than Matt Groh would. I think any two people's boards should be different. How could you possibly have the same board as Mike
Deuce and I's
Evan?
board is different. So
well, I was
amateurs.
Any two people could look at 300 prospects and rank them differently.
I don't know if you'll agree with this, Evan, but from my experience, I screw around. I get start putting my big board together and who I like and all those things, and then I'm like, all right, I'm going to stick to my big board in this mock draft, and then I get to do the mock draft simulation. I'm like, I can't draft that guy at 14. It always kind of works out that way that you're like,
that's why I would be terrible at it.
Yeah.
Because every time I'm on the board, I go, I don't want any of these guys.
Right? I know.
And I think that's what Bill does, and he trades down.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's exactly how we get in trouble.
It's funny. I mean, they need to figure it out this year. And I mean, but I can't help but I got to bring it up though. Shouldn't Bill have the control of the board? You know what I mean? I'm not.
He should.
No.
He should.
Yes.
No, he's the head coach. I mean, he's the head coach and GM. It comes down to him.
I don't know, but Fred. He's put together pretty successful programs over the past 20 years.
No, it should all come down to him. But
that's another one.
It all comes down to how much faith does he put into his scouting department? Is he willing to go with their opinion? I'm under the opinion that I agree with Paul. Like, everybody has different opinions on the same player, but by the time draft day comes, all those opinions should be in the barn.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
They are.
Yep.
like by that time, we should have a consensus.
The consensus is what Bill says it is.
But it's Bill's.
Yeah.
No,
He override.
well, I think but he might override during the process. But by the time you get to draft day, the overriding has been done. Like
Yes,
Because he's made the decision.
I agree.
Because you're saying, Fred, he's not looking at that board that's in their room that is set, and they get to their pick, and there's the guy it should be, and Bill says, you know what, actually, you guys, this guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we're going to skip the 9th guy on
Yeah,
the board. And we're going to
let's
go
go
with
down
21
here.
because I like it.
I hope
not how
that's not
He puts
happening.
21 ahead of
Yeah,
9
It's
before
already
they go
sitting
in.
there,
Yeah.
and then that's why you see Matt Groh just do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't listen. I have more faith in Bill than obviously Evan does.
And the best example, and it's indisputable. I don't care what
Dogs
anyone
and cats
says.
living
It is. It's like a whole world evolution change. I'm defending Bill.
But the indisputable evidence of that, no matter what Bill says or anyone else, is during the Rutgers years with Schiano.
Yeah.
Bill put Devin McCourty above everybody else. I mean, let's face it. Or Deron Harmon.
But I gave you the information there on that draft, though, that I gave you the facts. Like, Bill loves to say, another one of our C drafts. Well, no, actually, Bill, there was 35 draft experts that were polled. The worst grade that you got was a B.
But
worst grade you got.
My point,
and Devin McCourty, by all accounts, was a late first, early second round prospect.
But my point is, if anyone
That's where they took him.
My point is, if anyone in the room liked other people over Devin McCourty, Bill overrode that.
Yeah.
You know, and the same with a lot of those Rutgers guys.
He's lost that trust from me. What I would like to see
that's what
I would like to see happen is Bill goes to Matt Groh and says, Matt, I need a receiver, I need a tackle, and I need a corner because that's what I need to turn this team around right now, and I want Groh picking the players because
It's tough.
I
Bill the GM.
I don't.
But you just want somebody other than Bill, or is there something about Groh that you like? Because I have not been impressed with the way Groh speaks after these drafts. I haven't been really impressed with a lot of the Groh factor.
I think
to
that
be honest with you,
Groh, Cam Williams. I won't put Elliott in this category because I think Elliott Wolf is more
pro.
Cam Williams, I'm intrigued
more
by.
pro personnel guy than draft, but maybe him a little bit too. I think the two of them, though, especially Cam Williams and Matt Groh, I think that they understand the game in 2023 a little bit better than Bill does.
I think that's probably fair. I didn't like the way Groh. This is going to be funny.
He's a goofy guy.
Funny coming from me. I didn't like the way he snarkily sort of chastised us all about you grinding the tape on Tyquan Thornton. Is that you remember that last year?
I remember.
There's been little things like that I like.
Was that you that he said it to?
No, it wasn't.
I
It
mean,
probably should have been, but
I
it
didn't.
wasn't.
I didn't mean that if it was to
No,
you specifically because I
no.
wasn't even in the room. I was
No.
listening because we were doing the show when we were hearing all that stuff. So we're not even in the room. But I didn't like the way he taught. I think he uses a lot of punchline, a lot of punch words. You want to be faster as a team. You got to draft fast.
He defended the picks
kidding.
last year. He definitely did. He went to bat for all of those picks because a lot of us were.
But kind of finger wagging as he was defending him.
That's fair. I think when
I haven't been
they take
overly
Tyquan
impressed.
Thornton, all of us wanted George Pickens, and they take Tyquan Thornton. So then we get into these press conferences, and it's like, okay, well, why did you take Tyquan Thornton over the consensus guys? George Pickens, Sky Moore,
and then he
Alec
mocked,
Pierce,
people
whatever.
for it's like Colonel Jessup, questions the way I provide it. Really, I'd just rather have you say thank you and be on with it. I'm sorry, a lot of people, Evan included, do a lot of work on these draft picks, and they have some thoughts and opinions. Are they not allowed to express them?
Yeah.
Just because I don't doesn't mean that nobody else does.
Especially based off of what's happened recently, where they don't have the trust anymore to be we're always
you
right.
have 5 or 6 years in a row where you have 1.5, reasonably good drafts.
That's how you put it. That's it right there.
I think the 20 draft is looking better probably now than it did last year at this time. With Uche's ascension down the stretch last year, and
Duggar's been a good
Owenyu's
player.
been good.
Yeah.
Duggar's been solid. That's a good draft.
Yeah.
And then the next
I don't think
draft was excellent.
I don't think the next year's draft looks as good as it did last year at this time
I know, but
with
still.
Mack and Barmore.
Yeah, but I'm still high on Barmore.
Yeah, you could still be high on him, but you have to be less high than you were last year.
But even those picks
Because of injury? Or?
Yeah.
But the 2020 and 2021 draft, both of those drafts, I know people are going to say, well, Duggar played at Lenore. Duggar was a top 50 prospect in that draft.
Yes, another one that was not drafted away from where everybody thought.
He was projected in the second round.
People make that out to be a Cole Strange pick.
Not at all.
Like, look what he did. You guys all laughed when he took. No, we didn't. No. He was a second-round pick by everybody's account. I look at the way other people stack the board, not the way I stack it. And everybody had him in the second round.
Right. So my point is their two best drafts of the last, let's call it half decade, are when they went by the board. When they said Duggar, Josh Uche, Onwenu in the 6th round was a steal at the time. I mean, a lot of us that do all this homework on it, I thought Onwenu was going to potentially be a 4th or 3rd or 4th round pick. They get him in the 6th, great pick. And then the next year, Mac, Barmore, Ramondre, even Ronnie Perkins, who hasn't been panned out, was a guy that all of us were 3rd round.
Well, they went Alabama, Oklahoma, and everybody was like, "Thank you."
Right.
You're taking
just no
quality players from quality programs.
Correct.
Yeah. Just not
why is that so hard? Why do we have to have a draft like last year where you just go completely off the reservation? Like, why can't we just stick to the board? And it's not just to please us. Like, it's also just because more times than not, the guys that played at those blue blood programs end up being the best players.
Yeah, and when you look at the way a lot of people have these things rated, and I'm not saying there's no guarantees. And if the guys that are doing the projections were perfect, they probably would be working for teams. So I understand that. But to Evan's point, you have a guy like Onwenu, who a lot of people thought was going to be a round or two higher. Well, you get excited about that. Conversely, when you take Cole Strange 3 rounds before everybody had him going, that's a red flag. Like, why did everybody else have him going so much later than you picked him?
Yeah.
And then when he gets by the coach, not by Paul, the coach took him out of 3 different games because he was struggling. I'm sorry, that looks like a bad pick. Now, does that mean he's a bust? No. 1 year in. Just like I don't like to just automatically declare a guy who has a good rookie year a home run because it's 1 year. You have to wait and see what happens over the course. Does he get the second contract? That, to me, is kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, is Josh Uche going to get a second contract?
It's just
I don't know.
It's just so hard at the point that they are, though, because it's like even if they absolutely hit the Cole Strange pick out of the park, what difference does it make last year?
Well, that's a Paul argument for a different day. Like, I'm
none
with Evan.
More difference.
I need difference-making players.
Right.
Special, planet kind of players. I want to take with. That's what they need. They need difference makers, talent, and the best guard isn't. Going to be a difference maker.
I'm sorry to all the guards out there, but that's always the position.
My son plays guard.
You can get a guard.
That was
If you're
my
gonna pick
whole
a
thing with the
position, you
Cole
have to
Strange
replace
pick.
guard.
Even at the time, it had nothing to do with Cole Strange. It's just that you needed a premium talent at a premium position, and you took a guard in the 1st round. And my take at the time was, when you go into Buffalo next year, is Cole Strange gonna help you beat the Bills?
What would your reaction have been if they took Zion Johnson in that? Because he was the guy that's supposed to be there.
I would feel better about it, but I would still feel
the same thing.
I would say Zion Johnson's not allowing you to go into Buffalo and win.
Right.
Like, I kind of think Evan's point on that is accurate. And I also, like Michael Onwenu, right? Again, we'll stick with him. 6th round pick. That's where I want to take my lineman, especially my interior lineman. I understand that if you want a really good left tackle, you got to invest a pretty high pick in it, more than likely. But I think you can get the rest of those spots in the middle to late rounds, and you're going to draft a lot of linemen, and most of them aren't going to pan out. You're going to have a lot of Corey Hilliards and Ted Larsons that go their separate ways. But you're going to hit on a Michael Onwenu or a Dan Copen, and you're going to have good late-round offensive linemen that help your team.
Yeah. I mean, their interior trio for multiple Super Bowls was Tooney, Andrews, Mason. Tooney was a 3rd round pick. Shaq was a 4th round pick, and
Andrews was
undrafted.
Well, in that point, Evan, I want to ask you this because I saw your tweet about
And Dante Scarnecchia.
about Broderick Jones,
Man.
and I think you made a good point on Twitter, just saying they don't draft a guy who only played 1 year. It's not experience, but can we make the argument now though that if that guy, even though he's not experienced, that he has that blue chip potential, that it's worth taking that risk, even though he's not the most experienced?
I would even look
player?
at his look at. You have the list. You actually.
I missed Matt Light.
Okay,
It was late
because you only had.
This is what happens when I tweet at 9 p.m.
You said 6, and there were only 5 guys there.
Yeah.
But the 5 guys that you listed, I would say, kind of not the most impressive list.
Right. So this is where draft nerd me and predictor me get into battles, because that tweet was about predicting, right, of what they would do.
Yes.
Not what I would necessarily do, because I love Broderick Jones, but they like older linemen. They like seniors. They like multi-year starters. They like guys that went to the Senior Bowl in particular early in the draft. Now, I think the rebuttal to it is, I think what you were kind of getting at, Mike, is they've never really had a chance to draft one of these Broderick Jones guys because they don't draft that high most years. So when they're up this high, maybe that changes because they don't necessarily, when they're down lower, they take the more experienced guys, but when they're up high, they take the high upside guy. I don't know. Yeah. But Broderick Jones has 19 starts at Georgia, and his pass sets are raw. He needs a lot of work in terms of his pass protection technique and things like that, footwork, hand usage, all that little nitty gritty stuff. So he's a little bit of a project, and I think that that's not typically their MO.
Yeah, and then I would just tie it to Cole Strange, because although experienced, still very raw as well. And so it's like at a certain point, hey, why don't you just bite the bullet on you're going to take some lumps with this kid like they took with Cole Strange? But you might
and
have...
the names are, it's Cole Strange, right?
Yes.
Matt Light,
Mankins,
Nate Solder, Logan Mankins.
Seabass?
No.
What was the
Adrian
list?
Clem.
And Adrian Clem. Okay, so there was another one that we're missing. But, Clem, bust. Strange, not a great start. I'd say Solder, okay, but nothing more than okay.
They could use Nate Solder right now.
Matt Light, excellent. Logan Mankins, more than excellent.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be one thing if you use that philosophy, they've only done it 6 times, you'd be like, oh, that must be a tried and true philosophy. They must bang it out of the park every time. No, it's like a 50-50 prop.
Yeah.
I mean,
Solder for his warts gave you some
Solder
stability.
was fine.
He was okay.
But if I'm going to draft a tackle in the first round, and Nate Solder is one of my all-time favorite Patriots, by the way, I want something better than that.
Yeah.
If I'm drafting at 17, you think Broderick Jones is better than that, I would imagine.
In terms of athletic upside, yes.
And he was pretty athletic, I have to say. I mean, he was like a tight end for a while. I was famous, and I don't think Matt has I used the stupid podcast that we would do, when we did tackles. I gave it the cheap punch. Nate Solder, not sold. And of course, what does that mean? What do we do?
First round.
We draft him in the first round. So I have to have that played for me over and over and over again. And he turns out to be one of the nicest human beings that I've ever come across in that locker room.
I think I might have said it on the show, but when we were talking to Seabass in Indy, he said he thought Solder was too tall to play, like just a little too tall, had trouble with the smaller guys that could get underneath him. I thought that was interesting.
And earlier in the show, I'm sorry, Fred, one last thing. Earlier in the show, I thought it was interesting when, Evan, you talked about Bill sometimes is, he'll do a reach here or he'll do something a little bit unconventional. And I think that has served him well at times in the past. He's taking some guys that I used to argue with Fred, he would say it's Bill, he's brilliant, Gronk, or Sebastian Vollmer. It'd be another one.
Sebastian Vollmer is the good outlier to this whole thing.
So
yes,
I would argue there are 28 teams that probably would have loved to have taken a chance on a guy like Gronk because they see exactly what everybody else sees. But there's only Andy Reid, probably John Harbaugh, Bill Belichick. There's not that many guys that are that comfortable that they can take a guy who didn't play his last year of college because of a serious back injury and say, you know what, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't pan out, I'm Bill Belichick. I've won 6 titles. At the time, I've won 3 titles. Where am I going? They're not going to fire me. Whereas, Kevin Stefanski can't make that pick because he's out of a job if it doesn't pan out.
And that was what last year's draft was with Cole Strange, was one of those, we're going to just do what we want to do.
Sometimes it doesn't work. You know, it
but I
worked
also
with
think that
Vollmer. It
it's-
worked with Gronk.
Right, but I also just think the rope is running out on him to have that.
I agree.
Yeah.
That sort of security.
I would also like to see draft tendencies on teams where the coach is also the GM versus where the GM has the power. Like if there's any pattern that you can derive of tendencies.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a ton of guys like Bill, though,
yeah.
that have the final say. I mean, there are some, but I don't think there's a lot. Though.
Well, I think it's a good example in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan. I am still not convinced that Trey Lance would have been Kyle Shanahan's pick. Trey Lance feels like a scouting department's pick because of the upside and the athletic tools. I still think to this day that if it was up to Kyle Shanahan, they would have stayed put and taken Mac Jones.
Well, but I think of Tennessee, but this year with Vrabel, I mean, close relationship with John Robinson clearly came. You know, I know Vrabel didn't coach here, but you know, how does that work? I mean, you really have to have a good relationship. It's interesting when you're going to bring a new guy in. What's his philosophy going to be? How much is he going to work with Vrabel? I just that dynamic is fascinating.
Just off the top of your head, what are the other coaches that have the final say?
I don't know. I know there have been over the years. I don't know right at this moment.
None of them that
I'm
I
not
can
sure.
think of.
I can't think of one
Brett
off the top
Veach,
of my
right?
head.
Like in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I mean,
Howie Roseman, the Eagles.
yeah. Oh, he was
I mean,
all over the place at the owners' meeting. Howie
John,
Roseman.
I'm trying to think
I mean,
of
Bill
like,
O'Brien famously took power.
yes, he had the control at one
Yeah.
point. You know, John Schneider has it in Seattle. I'm trying to think of the older coaches that might have that swag. You know, Ozzie Newsome and DaCosta in Baltimore over Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Like even the veteran head coaches,
Yeah.
The Steelers have a
Don't
guy,
have
I
the
forget,
final.
I forget who it is
interesting.
now. But
All right,
guy
well,
that took over for Kevin Colbert, right?
yeah.
We'll take a break now. I know you're hanging on the phone. Thank you for that. We'll get to you right after this. A lot of emails, good discussion. Back on Patriots Unfiltered.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G Ultra Wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G Ultra Wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible!
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Want to get into the game? Get coached up at Dean College. Equipped with exclusive academic partnerships featuring the Patriots, Revolution, Providence Bruins, summer baseball, and more, our classrooms are set up for success by learning directly from the pros. Dean College has programs in communications, sports management, business, and marketing with unprecedented hands-on experiences. Our students take what they learn in the classroom and put it right to work in the marketplace. At Dean College, our students don't just play games, we run them. Visit us at dean.edu.
Verizon, the network America relies on, and the official 5G network of the New England Patriots.
Patriot Place is the region's #1 shopping, dining, and entertainment destination. Shop your favorites, including Vineyard Vines, Express, Bass Pro Shops, Petco, and more. Enjoy dining at one of our 19 restaurants, including Six String Grill and Stage, Scorpion Bar, and Bar Louie. And don't forget about the entertainment. Explore your inner artist at Muse Paint Bar. Watch a movie at Showcase Cinema Deluxe, or grab a controller and start gaming at Helix Esports. For a complete directory listing, please visit patriot-place.com.
How did Verizon build the fastest 5G in the world? We started by building it right with 5G ultra wideband. Then we gave it massive capacity and near zero lag. And it's not just fast, it's 25 times faster than today's 4G networks. This is 5G built right from the network more people rely on, only on Verizon. 5G ultra wideband available only in parts of select cities. Global claim based on open signal independent analysis. 25 times analysis by Ookla Speed Test Intelligence data Q2 2020.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
Oh no.
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
In sports, if you think joy only happens after you win, think again. Look at the world's most successful athletes like Serena Williams, Brooks Koepka, and Alex Morgan. They don't spend all their days grinding away. They take time to enjoy themselves, like getting together with friends over a Michelob Ultra, because they know that happiness is the key to winning, and that joy is the whole game, not just the end game. Michelob Ultra. 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. AB Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Some people are never content with simply being good. Not when they can be great. But it takes a big step to get there. In fact, it takes a leap of faith, a belief in what you're striving toward, and a willingness to make the commitment, day in and day out, to something bigger than yourself. Putnam is proud to partner with those who share their own commitment to performance excellence. This is Matt Light for Putnam Investments, a world of investing.
There's no season better than football season. And there's no better place to get in on all of the action than with DraftKings, the official daily fantasy sports partner of the New England Patriots. To add to the thrill, DraftKings has millions of dollars in prizes up for grabs every week. So head to the app now and check it out. If you haven't tried it yet, fantasy football is easy to play. Just pick 9 players, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for yards, touchdowns, receptions, and so much more. There's no better way to put your football knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at $1 million in total prizes. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week. That's promo code PATS to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes every week, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details.
Patriots fans, you'll want to check out the replay on this one. Pat the Patriot is stealing the show tonight with his Bank of America mobile banking app.
That's right, folks. So here we see Pat cheering, and then whammo! Is that Bank of America life plan?
Looks like he's saving up for some big future moves. Planning the next vacay, huh, big guy?
And wait, now he's paying back his buddy for concessions using Zelle? No penalty there. Incredible.
No way! As if that double move wasn't impressive enough, now he's beefing up his account defense with security meter? Holy cannoli, what a performance!
Bank of America's digital tools are so impressive, Patriot fans just can't stop banking. Learn more at bankofamerica.com/banking. You must be enrolled in online banking or download the latest version of the mobile banking app, only available on select mobile devices. Message and data rates may apply. Terms and conditions apply. Member FDIC.
And now, great moments in history.
Good lobster bisque is like sex for your throat. I do remember saying that.
I don't, but that's even funnier than
good lobster
you
bisque is like sex for your throat.
Plus it was Dan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt Dan.
If you're looking for a good lobster bisque on the Cape, the Daniel Webster Inn Sandwich has an excellent lobster bisque.
You have the place down the Cape.
Oh yeah.
For everything.
Well, if you haven't noticed, they eat out a lot because I don't cook, but my wife doesn't really particularly enjoy it either. So we eat out a lot. But
yeah, my wife and I eat out a lot too.
Yeah. I enjoy the whole thing about eating out. I do. You know, I like the sitting down, getting a drink, placing the order. I just
you know what I
that.
really like when on like a Saturday night, especially in the summer, if it's nice out, you get to a place on the water, and your table's not ready, and you go to the bar and have maybe a couple of drinks while you're waiting for your table.
Yeah.
And that to me is like.
See,
There's a couple hours.
See, I don't
that's
like
perfect
that
for me.
I
That's
don't
perfect
like
for
that.
me.
I don't like having to be in a place where I know I'm going to have to move as soon as they call my name. I like to just be where I'm going to be and settle in.
You fat bastard.
No, it's not about laziness.
I don't want to move.
That's another great moment from.
We can argue about anything, can't we?
I guess, man.
Well, I didn't pick up the first time around until I just heard Matt replay it. You had said he loves to eat out, and the first thing he liked about eating out was you sit down.
Yeah, you settle in, you get comfortable.
So I didn't. If I had picked up on that, I would have realized that starting one place and ending up in another place within the same restaurant is not on Fred's list. Because now I have to move.
Not part of the experience for me. I want to just settle in, get comfortable, check out the ambiance.
Are you a big hey, I'm too close to the bathrooms? Can I move? Hey, I'm too close to the kitchen. Can I move? Do you get touchy about that stuff?
Not so much kitchen, but bathroom. But usually most restaurants that I've been to, that's not an issue.
It's segregated. Yeah. It's like there's usually like a little hallway or something that leads
places that I go to say
they don't have bathrooms. They have a person that comes and
now. Do you ever eat off Cape?
Sure, of course.
He's got a long drive. He has to
is that a
pulls
dig?
over.
No,
and,
is that a shot?
Pulls
no,
over
I just like how
Middleborough.
you're just completely.
Well, that's where I live
I'm
now.
on Cape now, so
that's where I live. I don't know.
I like to drink at the bar before the table's ready.
You do
love
like
to
that.
drink
I like
at the bar.
it. Yeah,
especially in the summer. I don't know
bartender.
why I like it in the summer more.
Oh,
like
'cause
they
it's
get like
summer.
a
Everything's
summery
better
kind
in
of
the summer.
drink. That's true.
You know
That
who
is
else
true.
likes it? Is No Socks. No Socks was born.
Well, that's all.
Born for a drink at the bar.
When we were,
but that's all No Socks does.
When we were in
Drinks at the
Arizona,
bar.
we went to this Mexican
he's
place.
the definition of sidling up.
We went to this Mexican place, and all of us are there, and we're all eating. We look over at the bar. There's No Socks by himself, at the bar, even though we on a group text said and he knew that. So he showed up at the same restaurant, but he wanted to hang out at the bar. He didn't want to hang out at the table. And then he just comes back, over to the table.
And he'll get a Corona, and he'll order it. And then as soon as they bring it to him, they say, I've been here before, so I know that this one has a hole in it. So can you bring me another one?
I had a couple different of those. First night we were in Arizona. The bar had closed at like 10, and it was like 10:05, and no socks, of course. Talked them into keeping the bar open. But then like the next night we were going out to dinner, and like, all right, everyone be down here at whatever 7:10. Like, all right, 7:10, I come walking down. He's at the bar. Deuce, you want a drink? I'm like, we're going to a party. Like, I don't need a drink here. Like, let's just go to the party. He lives for it, though. He loves it.
All right. I promised we'd get to the phone calls and emails when we come back, and that's what we're going to do. 855-PATS-500 is the Ace Ticket hotline. We'll start with Fidel in Tampa. Thank you for holding on, Fidel.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Hey, Fidel.
Hey, so I've been holding on to this one thing for all off season, and my biggest thing was if I was Kraft, I would say this is Bill's last season. If the playoffs or significant progress wasn't made, the reason why is you made a point, Fred, like defending Matt Patricia and Bill Belichick, kind of saying that maybe it was Bill asking Matt to do offense with Judge for the year while we wait for Bill O'Brien, or it was, can you just try it? Or maybe even Matt Patricia volunteering for the position. Either way, if I was Robert Kraft and I saw the performance Joe Judge just had on the Giants going for a QB sneak on third down, or if I saw Matt Patricia's terrible performance with the Lions, I would not entrust my billion-dollar franchise to have a coach who thinks these are the best two candidates to lead this team. That is like absolutely ridiculous that we're even excusing that fact this long into it. That's one reason. Another reason is just the poor drafting. It's like everyone can play GM. I play Madden a couple times a week, and I don't think I'm saying this is Madden or anything. I'm not saying anything like that. But I know I'm not going to draft the guard in the top first or 2 rounds. Ooh. What's the best case scenario that we have is we have a guard who's like, what's his name? Quentin Nelson. From the
Quentin Nelson.
Hey, Quentin.
Yeah, like the best case scenario, perfect. We have a great guy. Now we're paying a guard $20+ million a year.
Yep.
We just stated the fact our 3 interior guys, all for the last 6-7 years,
so
part of our last 3 Super Bowls.
Fidel, before we let you go, what do the Patriots have to do for you to want to keep Belichick this year?
It's significant progress. I need to see Mac and the team performing extremely well. I don't want to see 100-yard games, 0 touchdown, 2 picks. I don't want to be seeing that. I don't want to be seeing players missing assignments, running into each other. I want us to see us to get 10 wins minimum.
Okay,
this is
so 10 wins. Okay,
I want 10 wins.
I mean, I don't know how you don't make the playoffs and have progress. I mean, I think you have to make the playoffs to show progress.
Thanks, Fidel.
Thanks, Fidel. Appreciate the call.
I did notice, by the way, the slightly lowering of the bar. Last year at the owners' meetings, it was, we haven't won a playoff game in 3 years.
Yeah.
Now let's just make
we need to make the playoffs.
Should we talk about? Should I bring up my research this morning? Oh, sorry, Fred. Are you blasting through calls right now?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna because the whole 25 years thing. I was like, well, how many playoff teams have? What's their record against playoff teams in the last 3 years? 2020 when they played a playoff team in that season. Of course, I asked Paul and he rattled them off exactly. They're 19 times. Including the Buffalo playoff game that they lost. What do you think their record is? Do you guys know off the top of your head?
19 games.
4 and 15.
Excellent.
Fred nailed it too.
I was going to be wrong.
They're 4 and 15 over the last 3 seasons against playoff teams. And Paul, do you want to run down the 4? What the factors were in those 4 wins?
The wins over playoff teams were New Year's Day last year against Miami and Skylar Thompson. The year before that, it was the Hurricane game in Buffalo. As well as the Tennessee game
without
anybody.
Right. 30 players.
It'd be easier to name the guys that did play than didn't. And then the Cam Newton year in the monsoon here against Baltimore. Those are the 4 wins over playoff teams.
To me,
since Brady left.
I mean, that's what it really is. That's what you've been.
Yep. So that kind of says a lot right there. I mean, those are facts, and
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go to Chris in Scottsdale. What's up? Oh, he didn't hang on. Willems and Phillum. What's up,
your
William?
Research put him over the edge.
What's up, William?
Good job, Mike.
Thanks for holding on.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, no problem. Let me just say, I've been a Patriots fan for a long time, and I cannot believe it's like there's more dysfunction this off season compared to the regular season when they were just going through all, with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge and them being office coordinator and all this stuff. And now you have the owner and the coach not on the same page. They don't need to be going through this. We know off season, you should be trying to get this team better. If you're going with Mac Jones, which evidently that you are, then you should be putting the best talent around him. And what's going to make Mac better? You know what I'm saying? Because Mac ain't going to make nothing too much better. You got to put things in place that's going to make him better. You know what I'm saying? So it's just blowing my mind with this nonsense. And that Mr. Kraft putting out, about the Lamar Jackson thing with Meek Mills and all that, to Evan, I was just saying to you, though, it would have been cool just to have him. But for Mr. Kraft to say that was a straight sucker move because you the owner. You could have did that if you really wanted to. You a $1 billion, our franchise, you the owner and all. You could make moves over. If that's what you want to do, then you could have did it, period. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Okay?
Well, and you're right, William, but it's interesting. Robert Kraft never actually said, that's what I want. He said, Lamar wants it, but it's up to Bill. He never said, and I hope he comes here, or I want him. He stopped short of that. So I wonder, does he want him? I don't know. But to do what he did really opened up a can of worms. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Look what it did.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And now one more thing, and that's it. This one's for Deuce. Deuce, you always say about the draft.
Yeah.
You do know, and you are aware that Bill Belichick, our coach, basically is having a hard time drafting. You are aware of that, though, right?
Sure.
Okay. And also, him drafting a guard in the first round, which kind of pissed me off, basically. But I was just like, I can't believe you did that. So give me some faith of going into this draft that makes you think that he's going to do this right this time.
I never said that. Why are you going to me like I'm defending Bill Belichick's draft?
That's me. I'm the one that said I'm optimistic.
Not Fred. No, not Fred. It's Deuce. It's always Deuce. Because Deuce, you always say about the draft, but Evan always tell you that you can't do everything through the draft.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
I'm with Deuce on this for the most part, though.
You should do through the draft, though, but just look at the Patriots' history, some of the things that they've done. I don't care what you did 25.
Well, I think it can be two different things, right? To say that he thinks that you should build through the draft, but also not necessarily love their drafting. Like those are two separate arguments.
I'm confused by a question though. So are you trying to say that they should have done more in free agency, and that's what you feel like is going to be the downfall, is that they weren't more active a couple weeks ago?
Okay, so let me put you let me say it this way then. All right, so we both be on the same page, okay?
Yeah.
When Bill, I don't want, just take whatever the best pick that's on the board, take it. Don't be reaching for something that's like in the 4th, 2nd round where you can get somewhere later. Why you just take the pick now? You know what I'm saying? Take the
I know. Well, William, I don't know if you listened to the first hour of the show, but I think we went through all this, and we're all on the same page with you. Like
I'm actually on the page with you guys. I think you need to be excited heading into a draft. I mean, especially when you have a lot of picks. Now I know they don't have a lot of high picks, but they need to start stacking drafts. And like the day that you just give up on drafting, why are you even doing it? If you're just going to assume that you're not going to get good
you
players,
need those guys on those early contracts contributing, and you need to draft well.
and they need to, but there's another part of it. He needs to play them.
Yeah.
Like, Evan, you brought up something early about Zay Flowers. If they draft Zay Flowers and you won't be able to criticize it.
Thanks, William.
That's part of the equation, right? Draft a guy that everybody thinks fills a need, talented player. Okay, everybody's on board. Well, now you have to develop them, and you have to let them play. I think that there's been a reluctance for Bill to let these young guys play and take advantage of that rookie contract. Look at some of the examples of guys over the years that it's like a year plus into his career before he gets meaningful playing time. How long did I rant to you? Ramondre Stevenson fumbled in his first game as a pro and got put on ice for like 5 weeks. Like, what good is that?
Yeah. And I felt a little bit last year like it felt like they were making some effort to get guys more involved. I mean,
I think they've done a better job of it lately.
I mean, Marcus Jones wasn't out of the gate. He was recovering from shoulder surgeries, but I mean, all of a sudden he's got offensive plays. He's returning punts. He's playing a little defense.
Couldn't see the field for like
Uche
2 years.
Didn't. So Jack Jones got out there. He got to play. More so in the beginning of the year.
I think he's been better at it lately. Like Barmore played. I think he's been better. Obviously, Mac. I think he has been better at it lately than maybe he was 3 or 4 years ago. I think you have to be. You have to and you have to develop him.
Yeah.
I think, much as I hate giving him credit, Ben Volen, I thought, had a good piece last year, late in the year, about the draft and saying, like, we can criticize the drafting, and that's fair. But, like the whole wide receiver thing, like, they haven't developed these wide receivers either. So it's not just like, well, they're taking N'Keal Harry and he can't play. Well, okay, maybe that's true for N'Keal Harry. But you're telling me all of the guys that they've taken, like Chad Jackson couldn't play, Brandon Tate couldn't play, Taylor Price couldn't play, like every guy?
But I think the problem is that when it comes to that position, they, especially near the top of the draft, and granted they haven't taken that many swings at the top of the draft, so it's a small sample size.
But all of those guys were third round and higher.
But those guys that you just named were all raw coming into the league as route runners.
Right.
And this is the part that bugs me the most about the way that they evaluate receivers, is that they basically draft receivers based off their athletic profiles. Whatever you did at the combine and whatever you look like in shorts and a T-shirt, we're taking those types of guys.
Yeah.
But the problem is that their system for 25 years has been predicated on route running, timing, separation at the top of the route, understanding what your assignment is, and what the coverage is and adjusting. Those types of things don't show up at the combine. Right, so when they take N'Keal Harry in the first round over technicians, guys that were good route runners and were sound in those respects, that's where I think the frustration lies, is because why did you ever think that N'Keal Harry was going to work here?
Yeah. It makes me wonder what it was like when they met with him pre-draft, and I'm sure they did the thing where they got him up on the board and they say, hey, remember we met 3 weeks ago and we probably, okay, spit that back out. Those kind of things that they tested.
Well, supposedly that was Chad Jackson's strength, remember?
Yeah, I don't.
And there was also a period of time where this was all blamed on Brady because Brady was too hard.
Yeah, he's too finicky.
He was too hard on the young young receivers. You lose his trust.
Yeah, he's not gonna.
Ryan's in New York. What's up, Ryan?
Hi. How you guys doing?
Hey, Ryan.
The show. I checked in a little late today, so if you already addressed this, I apologize. But I understand there is a need for a weapon with this upcoming team. I like Juju just as much as I like Jacoby Myers. I know that's debatable, but it is what it is. But did we fully address the tackle position in free agency, or are we looking for them at like a round 2 position? Are we just going to ignore it and say that our offensive line magically got better?
I don't think they can ignore it. I mean, I think if it's a team play for 14, I think the first 2 days, I think they got to take one of those spots.
Agreed. Yeah, they
consensus all around.
It's another position where they have some decent depth now, but it still feels like the starters are.
They don't have a starter. They added depth.
Yeah,
but they don't have a starter. I'm with you guys 100%.
Yeah, I do think you hope that Adrian Clem, who Bill basically confirmed is actually on staff, so I think we can talk about him without reportedly. Adrian Clem
allegedly
is. I think you hope that he develops some of the younger guys and maybe brings some guys along. I think a guy like Calvin Anderson, who they signed in free agency, has a ton of potential. If he's with the right coach, I think that he is somebody that has the athletic upside to develop into a starter. So maybe Adrian Clem is able to have some of that Dante seasoning, right, where you bring one of these guys in and you're able to find somebody.
I'd feel better about him starting than I would Riley Reeve.
Absolutely.
It might be the wrong way to ask this, but do you feel like there's more on Adrian Clem and Bill O'Brien this year, or the players?
Yes. Oh, the coaches.
That's my biggest concern. Is they're looking at Bill O'Brien like
make magic happen, bro.
Like a messiah. Like come in and save us all, right? And I just don't know if you can do that. And if I'm Bill O'Brien, I've got to imagine he's in the meeting room right now being like, Bill, I'm a good coach. I believe in myself, but this is a middling offense right now on paper. Like, you got to give me more than this. If you really want me to be able to do my job at the highest level, you got to give me the old groceries, saying. Like, you got to give me some more than this. I just there's a lot of hoping for Bill O'Brien.
Do you think, though, that this team can be better than 2021, at least like on paper, where we stand today? Because, I mean,
let's, like you said, who has more pressure on them? On paper, what's a bigger upgrade? Juju, Robinson, and Gesicki over the guys that they replaced, or Bill O'Brien over the guy he replaced?
That's coaching by far.
So if you're going to be better, it's almost entirely on the coach's shoulders. I think that Gesicki's better than Jonnu Smith. I don't think there's a huge argument to be made against that. I think Juju's better than Myers, but I as already stated my argument on that very, very minimally. Yeah. And I think Robinson and Harris are a complete wash.
Well, the question is, if O'Brien was here last year, how much better would they have been last year with that cast? And I think they would have been maybe a game or two better.
Yeah, I'm not willing to say games better. They would have been better offensively.
They probably would have been competent.
Yeah.
I think they win the Minnesota game, for example.
Maybe.
What? It's funny that you picked that one. That's the only game that they played all year that they looked like they had an offense.
But I think they would have finished. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't.
Why?
Because they would have been
at some point.
They would have been more confident.
You know why they have a hard time finishing? I really dread going down this road because I know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But they have a hard time finishing because once the other team figures out the scheme, they don't have players that can win.
But that's the
That's
thing.
why they have a hard time
with better
finishing.
coaching, that would have been better. They wouldn't have been able to figure.
It's the same problem that they had 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's why they didn't have any come-from-behind wins.
Well,
when push comes to shove and the cards are in the middle of the table and it's my guy against your guy, they don't have a guy.
Exactly. And every once in a while, even last year with Patricia, they had a scheme that was mildly successful at times earlier in games. And then the other team says, oh, I wasn't really expecting that, but this is all we have to do to stop that. Now what do you have to fall back on? Yeah. And this is why I dreaded bringing it up, Fred. This is why they're easy to defend.
Oh, they say that. We don't like
But
that.
I agree.
And I don't think that the talent is much different. I think they're going to continue to be easy to defend with the guys they have now than they were last year. I just think the guy calling the shots will be closer to Josh McDaniels 2 years ago than Matt Patricia last year. They'll be better offensively because of that.
And that's the number one frustration. I agreed with William in his call, was that if Mac Jones is going to be your quarterback, then you have to surround that quarterback with the talent around him for him to excel. And I am not 100% certain that Bill thinks that that's as important as the rest of the league does. I'm not even talking about us. Like, I'm not even talking about media. Just look at the other teams around the league and how they approach the offseason in terms of team building and how they go out and they trade for these receivers or they draft these receivers in the first round and they really go out and attack for weapons to go and get these guys.
It is so funny too. Like, there's been
does he believe in that?
There's been a lot of tweets, like listing all the offensive skill guys. Like, this is what they have, and it's Stevenson, Robinson, Gesicki, Henry with Parker, Thornton, and I'm like, yeah, like this is supposed to scare people. Like, where is the major upgrade? Like, I think people think that, like, I've heard a lot of people talk about the offensive line upgrade. We're getting a lot in SPF. Who's up for SPFW? You guys had to have seen it.
Next week. Yeah.
The SPFWs, they want to like pound away with Ramondre Stevenson behind the improved offensive line. What have they done to improve the offensive line?
Adrian Clem.
Yeah.
Again, you're almost entirely reliant on coaching. And by the way, I have no idea if Adrian Clem is good. I know Bill O'Brien's good because I saw him do it. I've never seen Adrian Clem succeed as an NFL offensive line coach. So I don't know what he is. But he better be damn good because that's what everybody's banking on, is what Fred just said.
I just don't know if the head coach, who's also the GM, I don't know if he believes in what the Eagles did. The Eagles drafted Devontae Smith in the first round, and they traded a first-round pick for A.J. Brown.
For a quarterback that they weren't sure of.
Right. They spent they spent 3 top 100 picks because they sent a third-round pick as well to the Titans for A.J. Brown on receivers in back-to-back years.
I just think
he's not going to do it. He's not going to do that.
I think it's very similar. You know, where Hurts was and where Mac is now. You could make an argument that Hurts was further along. At least he was developing. He played a little as a rookie. He got his team to a playoffs as in second year. He was ascending. And they still said, you know what, I'm not sure about that quarterback. I think we need to get more around him to help him because if we ask him to do it all, I don't know if he's good enough to do it all. Now, maybe he is. He had an MVP-type season. My guess is the guys around him had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, I'd also say I think it's worth saying that they had a really good offensive line in place, too. You know, like that was set, and you've got probably the best offensive line.
But that's part of what's around them.
Yeah.
But you can also build the line. I think they can build through the draft. I think they can build the line through the draft, but they have not shown any wherewithal at all with the receiver position to believe that they can build that through the draft. And these teams have overpaid in the veteran market for receivers. I think Tua in Miami was also in a really similar spot. Mm-hmm. They drafted Jalen Waddle in the first round, and they traded a boatload of picks for Tyreek Hill in back-to-back years, essentially. And this team is just not going to do that. They're going to take Tyquan Thornton 50th overall, and they're going to basically pick swap for Devontae Parker with the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to say, done. They're going to sign Juju Smith-Schuster in free agency. They're going to trade Jonnu for Mike Gesicki, essentially done. You know, okay, we're good.
Shuffling the chairs.
Yeah. Rick in Dallas, let's get some of these emails. webradio@patriots.com. Based on Tuesday's show, my question is this. Bill the coach is still the best in the business, but Bill the GM is approaching the game with outdated philosophies. Do you think there's any scenario where Bill would stay with the Patriots if Mr. Kraft brought in a GM to oversee football operations, the draft, contracts, etc.? That way, Bill doesn't need to think about the cap or contract negotiations and can simply focus on football.
Nope.
No.
I don't. No.
Nope.
I wish.
Let's see. Sam writes in from Halifax, UK. I think what is frustrating with Bill and how he speaks about Mac is that he sounds like he's been saddled with Mac against his will when he's also the GM who picked him and builds the roster. It'd be different if a separate head coach and GM were at odds over the starting quarterback, but if he truly feels the way it seems he does about the position currently, then at this point it's on him to rectify it. I trust Bill if he thinks Mac won't be the guy, but to feel that way and do nothing as a GM doesn't make sense.
Well,
we don't really know.
Yeah, and I mean, and I think in probably Bill's own way, he's trying to get the best out of Mac that he can. I think we can disagree if he's going about it the right way, but I have to think that's what, I mean, you invested a first-round pick in the kid. As he said himself, he can play in the league. I mean, I think a lot of this refusal to kind of acknowledge him as the starter, et cetera, is just, it's part of his belief of how I can get this particular player to reach that level. And I don't know if it'll work. I really don't. I mean, I think Mac's a unique kind of kid. I just don't really have a true sense of Mac Jones, I don't think. I think he's very guarded in press conferences. We get kind of, a character that you feel like is running everything through a governor of, what do they want me to say? And, we're just, speak in generalities and, compliment everyone else. And, I just don't really have a sense of him. And I'm curious after last year, now you get Bill O'Brien in here who knows what he wants, who's a hard coach too. How does it all gel? Is Mac, oh, wow, Mac is really motivated, and right now he's down the hall and lifting and going crazy because, he wants that acknowledgement from Bill Belichick. Maybe, but maybe not too. And maybe he's like, I'm so over this. I don't, I'm not invested. They're not giving me guys that I feel like I can play. They didn't slide my buddy Slade Bolden yet. Like those kind of things.
Can you not? We're having a good show.
Sorry.
Holding a roster spot open for McConkey.
I heard Jerry Judy's pretty good.
No.
Jordan, Appalachian, New
You
York.
don't get it. He was actually Slade Bolden was the guy that made that offense run.
Jordan says, I continue listening to the debate on Juju and Myers, and last week everyone wrote in on the stats between the two in man coverage, and Evan claimed Myers was better in that category.
To my eyes, yes.
I liked the Juju signing initially, and the more I listen, the more I think we should have kept Myers. I'm more curious to know how they each fared against top corners in coverage. Did Juju get the team's top corner more than Myers did? I don't recall seeing Sauce Gardner, Tre'Davious White, and other top corners following Myers. Hopefully your responses, especially Paul's in this move me back to favoring Juju.
I think you're overthinking it. I mean, I don't think anyone's gonna sway you with man coverage numbers. Like they're kind of the same player. I think we all kind of agree Juju is a little bit better in a few areas. Jacoby might be a little bit more better in reliability and contested catches, but there's not a huge difference between these two guys. So
that's my feeling on it. But I also would say, if you, I don't have numbers. I'm not a big analytics guy. You guys all know that. But wouldn't it stand to reason that Jacoby Myers was the number one option for the Patriots passing game in the last 2 years and probably saw more of the coverage than Juju Smith-Schuster did last year in Kansas City?
Particularly on third down when
Kelsey.
You needed it most.
Yep.
Who else are you going to cover?
Do you have to have is that where we've come? Like you can't just watch the game and say that he's the number one option and Juju wasn't. You have to have something that backs that up with analytics from PFF.
The man coverage numbers, the reason why I push back on the analytics in this case is because that doesn't pass the eye test for me. Jacoby Myers is a better route runner and a better separator at the top of the route than Juju is. He's just is based off of the eye test. So I think that those man coverage numbers are probably more to what Paul's speaking about of the coverage was probably a little bit tighter on Jacoby Myers. It was probably a little bit more focused on Jacoby Myers, and Juju was not the number one option in the plan. But I think sometimes people do get lost in the weeds of, did he draw the number one corner? Did he not draw because a lot of that is related to the type of defense the opponent plays, where that top corner likes to play. Like if you have a guy in the slot who's your number one receiver, then but he's
not getting Jalen Ramsey
right,
on the outside.
and Jalen, somebody isn't comfortable traveling inside. If you're playing a zone based team, a cover three or a quarters based team, then they don't travel. They don't play man. So here, yes, in New England, when you have a Darrelle Revis, Bill Belichick's going to put him on the best guy, and he's going to travel with them all over the place. But there are not a ton of teams in the league that actually approach it that exact way. So don't get lost in that.
Neither one of those guys is the type of receiver that will require that. Right?
No.
Well, why would you go in and say we're going to have Sauce Gardner trail Juju Smith-Schuster everywhere he goes?
Only because he's the best they got.
That's all they got.
No, but what I'm saying is you don't have to do for this team.
Right.
You do that for
you just play
Miami.
You just play sides, and we'll see where they line up. I think we'll be all right.
Neil in New Brunswick, here are my takes on Robert and Bill. From Robert's perspective, the comments about Lamar felt more like a humble brag. I know this rapper and good players still want to play for our franchise. He's doing that because, honestly, his team is becoming irrelevant nationally. They don't even get a mention, and at 70-1 odds, it's obvious they're expected to go 6-11. For Bill, like the end of the show Tuesday, I agree. We're just holding on to the record thing. When Tom left, most people said 50-50 share of credit for the dynasty. With each passing season, Bill is losing credit to the point eventually no one outside of the local market will give him any credit. Call Phil Jackson Bill. He'll teach when to move on when you don't have the best players on your team. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I'm going to use this.
Phil Jackson was famous for leaving the team when he knew that the stars were gone.
Oh, okay.
Like when Jordan was leaving.
So when the ship was sinking,
out.
he jumped ship.
It's wicked smart. I just got to say, Anthony Richardson doing a back handspring. He's a unit.
Yeah, but I also have to say I'm not impressed with his throwing against air thing. No, it's like the footwork and a lot of air under balls that
I laughed. Someone on Twitter, and it was a national name that I didn't recognize. They showed a play, for Florida. He drops back, everything is perfect. He sits in the pocket, bang, back foot, footwork is perfect. Throw, it was an out that was fairly well covered, but the throw was perfect. And the guy's like, why are there questions about this? Why is this guy a project? And I'm like, I don't know. Can you show me the other 50% of the throws that he made that he didn't complete? So I can pick those apart?
I do think that he's a different type of project, and I think the word project takes on very many meanings, I guess. He's not a project in the way that he operates from the pocket. He's a quarterback. He understands to read the coverage. He understands to look it off. He understands eye manipulation, all that type of stuff. He just has mechanical flaws right now.
Refinement.
Right.
Did you think Josh Allen was a project?
Yes.
Yes, of course he was.
Yeah, similar.
That just sounded like Tony Maz there.
Yes, of course he was,
yeah,
Mike.
It was Josh Allen and this guy, to me, are really, really similar. That they both, when you watch them on film, it wasn't that you're teaching them how to play the position.
No,
it was you're refining their mechanics.
No one was wondering, are you going to make Josh Allen, a defensive back? No one's saying that about Anthony Richardson either. He's a quarterback. But the question is he refined enough with his mechanics, his accuracy, and all the things that go into it? I think he's played quarterback the way everybody else does. I just think he's a little erratic.
I think him and Hooker are. All the quarterbacks
Hooker is
just such wild
shooting
cards.
up the board.
I've seen him in the first round. And right now,
Everybody has him in the first round now.
Now we have Anthony Richardson in the top 5, and a lot of these mock drafts are showing right here. These guys seem like such wild cards. I know quarterbacks will always be wild cards in the NFL because you have to have one, and if you like them. But I think you talk about players that might get overdrafted a little bit that could push players down to the Patriots. I think these are a couple guys. It seems like Richardson probably is he in top 10. He's
been a top 10 pick for a while.
Sam in North Carolina.
Seattle at 5, I think.
Here's my sort of conspiracy theory on what Bill sees in Mac Jones. He compares him to Brady. Bill thinks he made Brady into the GOAT and that he could build the team the same around Mac as he did Brady and coach Mac up to Brady-like level. I believe in Mac, but I do think he needs pieces around him just like Brady did. To quote Giselle, he can't throw the ball and catch it too. I don't kill Bill for free agency too much, though, because I believe if Judy was a free agent, then he would be a Patriot by now. I don't
believe that at all.
No.
If Judy was a free agent, he would have hit it out of the park.
Well, I don't
think the Patriots would have been the ones to knock it out of the park.
I'm also thinking that I don't think Bill thinks he can make Mac Jones into Tom Brady.
It's funny. I more agreed with the beginning.
Really?
I do. And I'm glad he brought this up. On Tuesday, Ev, you were here. Mike wasn't. I think I made a comment I would definitely give Bill some credit for developing Tom Brady. Well, that has turned into on Twitter someone saying that I said that Belichick made Brady, which is not what I said and not what I meant.
No. If that's exactly what you said.
So what I was talking about was defending Belichick, which, again, I find myself in a very odd place this week doing a lot of defending of Bill Belichick, the greatest coach who's ever lived. Didn't think he needed defending. But anyway.
He does now.
I just don't think that it was all, no matter where this 6th round 199th overall pick went, he was going to win. I think Tom Brady would have been successful no matter where he went. I think that he benefited from having the greatest coach ever, and that helped him win even more. That's all. But I don't give all the credit for Brady to Belichick. That's crazy.
But Bill has, even though he stopped short of saying he's the greatest football player ever, he says that Tom Brady is the greatest at his position ever. I don't think he thinks Mac Jones can ever be that. I just don't.
Well, I mean,
I do think he thinks he was instrumental in it, and I'm not sure that that's accurate.
Can you guys think of any examples of him kind of pulling this stuff? I don't want to say mind games, but those kind of things with Brady, like holding back on praise, those kind of things.
I mean, more of it.
Trying to keep him running hot.
Only late in his career.
With Garoppolo.
He didn't do that early in his career.
I think it was more. With Brady, I think the difference is that it was more behind the scenes than it was.
Yes. I can get
with the media.
Johnny Foxborough.
Yeah, well, and that's pretty famous that he would grill. He would tear him apart. In film sessions.
But early in his career, there was a lot of Fred. You'll remember these. There's no quarterback I'd rather have. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Late, I think, and it did start probably with the drafting of Garoppolo. I think he thought Brady had gotten to the point where it was no longer as much of a burning desire for him. Like the parking space was no longer a huge issue.
The offseason, Alice Guerrero. It's a lot of the stuff.
But starting in 14 and going through those next few years, I think you did get a little of what Evan's talking about. Every once in a while, I need to do this because I gotta motivate him. I gotta keep him sharp.
I just think it's kind of interesting in retrospect comparing to what game was it, Paul, after in 2001 where it was like Tom's the guy now. He went with him.
After
it was
the Rams
like the vote.
game,
It was like the vote of confidence.
He's the quarterback for
Drew's
the foreseeable
healthy,
future,
and we're going. It's
a very sad day for me. I got over it though. When the guy won 6 titles, I got over it. I came around.
Kevin in Burlington, 2 quick questions. If a team were to make a contract offer to Lamar on the non-exclusive tag, are they allowed to negotiate with him, or is it just a blind offer?
No, you'd have to negotiate. with him.
You have it in
He has
place.
to sign it.
Matter of fact, that's the only guy you can negotiate.
And you have to
Doesn't
buy.
even have an
Did you
agent.
see his new business venture? What is that? The whole gym.
The
I think
whole
it's
gym.
called.
The
It looked like
entire
the
gym.
biggest piece of crap I've ever
Awful
seen in my
product.
life.
The whole gym and nothing but the gym.
It's like a lot of metal rods that just
Listen,
I know
he's
I'm not
got
a
his-
Lamar guy, and that one point that was another point for Deuce. I felt like, and
Oh
I'm
my
like,
God.
what are we doing here?
The guy
What
that
are we
he's
doing?
working with Lamar is the same thing as Alex Guerrero.
I know.
He's got his own
exactly.
Alex Guerrero. That's all it is.
And for Baltimore to match the offer, is it accepting the exact terms of that offer or just years and value? Like hypothetically, could
Exact terms.
Yes.
So could the Patriots offer a deal that includes a clause saying if Lamar will to play in
poison
Baltimore
pill.
more than twice a season,
No, you
he
can't
gets
do
like
that.
an extra $200 million or something to make it unacceptable?
No, you can't do that.
You can't. But what you can do is you can structure it. So this is the biggest cap issue with Lamar Jackson is that the Patriots ideally would structure his contract to have year 1 be a low cap hit. But if you're Baltimore, why wouldn't you just match it? If all he's going to count against the cap in year 1 is $10 million, then why wouldn't the Ravens just match that team friendly structure?
Matt, get Paul something to drink. Well, he's dying over here.
But that's really the only difference. Now, in terms of terms and stuff like that, like you're offering him a contract, and if they match it, they match the exact same contract that you offered him, and he has to sign it. So
How much of this Lamar stuff though do you think because he doesn't have an agent? Like I can't rule out that is like really gumming up the works. Oh, Josh.
Yeah, 2 Joshes.
No offense, but he kind of looks like me.
Do you remember we had a
mixing a salad.
We had a
Josh.
coaches thing last year on Zoom, and he was like looking at himself in the mirror, and he's like, "Oh." He started like
Yeah.
He got like self-conscious, and he only was gaining weight.
Yeah, I think the and I wonder with the structure of that
Las
Ev,
Vegas buffets
with Lamar, like the Patriots have all that cap space in year 2. Do you make it really still? I mean, I know there is like percentages and stuff. There are rules that you have to, but assuming that you stay within the parameters, if you make it a low cap number in year 1, if you made it an astronomical one in year 2,
it's possible.
Would that make it harder for Baltimore? I don't know.
It's possible. I think that whenever you have an RFA, like the number one thing that you want to do is you want to make it so that year 1 cap hit is really not affordable for the team that has the has the option to match it. So that's the biggest problem is that in order to clear the cap space, the Patriots would also need to clear the cap space. So they would be in the same position as the Ravens to an extent.
But here's the thing: do the Ravens want to match it? Do they really want to get rid of this guy?
I don't.
No.
That's the question.
If they wanted to get rid of him, they would trade him. They'd be actively trying to trade him.
Well, they want to get as much as they can for him.
Right.
I think that they are.
That's what they'd be doing, and they're not.
I think they're genuinely in a point where.
But has anyone made an offer?
They would be making offers to other people if they wanted to trade him, is my point.
They'd be calling other teams.
Yes.
I think that generally the problem, and I think this is sort of where the no agent thing comes into play, is that the Ravens and Lamar are on polar opposite sides in terms of what his value is, and the only way that they can find a middle ground is by signing him to the non-exclusive tag and hoping that another team sets the standard for them, sets the market for them. Because there's no agent going out there and saying, well, we have X offer from this team and Y offer from that team.
Right.
So there's really a lack of negotiation. Yeah. So they're saying to themselves, like, what is he even worth? Like, we don't even know what he's worth.
What's more likely this year? He plays for the Ravens, he plays for another team, or he doesn't play?
plays for the Ravens.
Ravens doesn't play another team in order.
That would be my order too.
But I'd like, I haven't heard anything from Ravens fans. Like I'm just imagining if the Patriots had Lamar Jackson and that this is what was going on,
crazy.
People would lose their mind. I mean, I assume that they are.
They are.
But like I said at the top of the show, there's already people that are probably going to hold it against this
some of the
organization
national
forever.
guys that are based in Baltimore, they're going crazy.
Well, there was a poll done recently. I don't know who did it. It was by social media sentiment and the most negative fan bases. Surprisingly, the Patriots were low. They were like 20th in the league.
I
the
thought
Ravens were like, top 5.
I thought that was surprising too until I saw the Jets were one spot above the Patriots. Like, I'm sorry, there's no way the Jets aren't the most negative fans in the league.
But maybe they aren't active on social media. I don't know.
Well,
no, seriously.
That's my point. I'm calling it into question.
But Ravens were in the top 5. So, when you're in the top 5, something's going wrong.
Like, if you ever everybody knows a Jets fan. Everybody knows somebody from New York, right? Have you ever met a Jets fan that's not miserable?
Yeah, but maybe they're so miserable that they're so miserable that
it's
apathy. Maybe it's apathy and they don't go on social media.
It ain't apathy.
Yeah.
It's anger.
Yeah.
It's like the Red Sox. Back then, people revel in it. It's part of the identity of rooting for the team.
Could you imagine in 2002, the Patriots finishing like 25th in most angry fans in Major League Baseball? That to me is the equivalent of what the Jets are doing right now.
Yeah. Let's see. Sean writes in Vancouver, there is a small sign that the Patriots might be open to a little change in philosophy. That change is Mike Gesicki. He's not the best tight end in the league. In fact, he's not even a real tight end. That's where things open up. He didn't fit in with the Dolphins scheme last season because he doesn't block. Everyone knows he won't block, and in the past, the Patriots haven't used a player at tight end like that. We have to reason that the Patriots brought Gesicki in to be more a large slot receiver. He will just run routes in a 12 or 2 formation, 0-2. He won't make the Patriots a contender, but he gives hope.
I just need the English explained to me. I don't need the formations explained.
But he gives hope that that New England will once again have an offense that opponents will have to game plan for.
I don't know how much you need to game plan, but I do think that they're probably just going to basically play him out of the slot. I mean, I think he'll use him kind of like he did Aaron Hernandez.
So he's going to be. I was just going to say he's going to be a pass catching tight end. Yeah. Wow, revolutionary.
Yeah, right. They've had those. I disagree
a lot.
that he's different. Yeah,
I mean, I understand he only caught like 30 balls last year in Miami because he wasn't a scheme. I get that. He's more of a 50, 60 catch guy, right? In his career.
In his
last year was an outlier. I'm not saying
the 2 years prior was like 700 yards.
I mean, he's a good pass not great, good pass catching tight end. Nothing more.
I would argue
less.
that him and Hunter Henry are basically the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that he probably has more juice.
I think he has more juice. Henry's a little bit more wiggle at the top of the route, but in terms of like where you're going to play them,
wiggle to you.
Not blocking.
Neither one of them are great blockers.
No, I know.
But
That's what they're playing.
Evidently, Gesicki is a completely unwilling blocker, which separates him from most.
We'll see. I'm not totally convinced about that.
Dan in Hawaii, Paul suggested that Bill does not draft players from the Big Ten. That seems to be overstated. In recent years, Bill has drafted a number of players from Michigan.
Did you not listen to the conversation?
Are we forgetting that there was a period when the Patriots drafted every defensive back from Rutgers because of Greg Schiano?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't
count.
Are they
really Big Ten?
Yeah, I don't count Rutgers as
that was.
As
they
a Big
were
Ten
not
team.
Rutgers.
But at the time they were in the Big East.
We talked about Michigan at the time.
That's the outlier program, Michigan and Purdue.
Well,
they like the Purdue.
While I am on board with the idea of drafting talent, I still believe Bill can assess talent. I think Bill's problem is he often drafts players based on how he projects players. Bill has shown a propensity for drafting well at running back, but not well at corner. In the end, I am a in Bill we trust guy.
Good luck with that.
What do you say? They're good at what? I mean, running back. Like, I think that's probably one of the easiest positions to draft. Like, there's not.
But I also think that's the position that he drafts. In my opinion, and it's all about what you agree with, right? Mm-hmm. I think he drafts running backs perfectly. Like where he takes them in general is exactly
cycles them through. Doesn't get attached.
Give me a third, fourth rounder every time. I'll take it.
Yep.
And generally, like you said, a running back, it's like there's no projection.
Right. There's like, do you know how to pass block on third down? I think that's something significant. But otherwise, do you find the hole, do you plant and go?
A lot of them have to learn that, but a
lot of them won't even play on
the Whites,
third down, right?
the Vereenes, the Stevensons, even Ridley, who is a little bit higher, that's where I want to draft those guys.
All right, we're going to give away a T-shirt.
Woo-woo.
Matt, ready? We're going to give away a T-shirt. First person with the correct answer to web radio at patriots.com wins a T-shirt. Again, it's web radio at patriots.com. And the question is, what song did Deuce parody before he started hating Brady? What song did Deuce parody before he started hating Brady?
Don't make me sing it.
First and correct answer to web radio at patriots.com wins a T-shirt. Matt,
and you'll win my affection.
Blurt it out when you have a winner.
Or just play the song, Matt. Just play the hit.
Yeah.
Or not.
Let's see. Todd in transition writes in. Well, I guess I found a spot where the GM, the coach, and the owner agree. Mac Jones is not it. While Mr. Kraft said nice things about Mac, he then said something along the lines that we should get Lamar if that is the solution. He did not say that.
He didn't say it.
He did not say that. Honestly, which of you think that there is something left to explore with Mac, or are you in agreement that it's time to move on? I don't see any quarterbacks in the draft that the Patriots would be able to target. Another year of rebuilding, waiting for the chance to get a quarterback?
You can't. I mean, that's unfortunate. I think you're married to him for this year. I mean, things could go sideways.
And I agree with you guys on that.
You know, you spent a first round on him. You didn't give him an opportunity last year to be successful. I mean, you know, if even Paul agrees that you gotta have to give him another chance. But that being said, I don't think that he's got the longest leash in the world.
Part of it is where you are picking. The last part of that email is what, like, I would weigh all the options, and I don't think there's a better option. If
I think there's a better option, they just won't pay for it.
We have a winner.
Well.
Who's the winner?
Okay.
Doesn't say where he's from, but Nathan.
Nathan. And the correct answer, Matt? I Won't Forget You by Poison.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
It's an all-time.
It's all right.
It's all right. All right. Sorry, I didn't get. I missed Tuesday's rap show.
Music
I'm
hot
80s
takes.
hair metal.
That's my niche right now is music hot take.
Evan and I could disagree because I think your alternative was Rodgers.
Lamar.
Oh, Lamar. Okay, that's different. I just think that's messy. That doesn't have to, like, they could do everything you want them to do and still not get the guy.
But I disagree with the emailer that if it's pretty clear that Bill is at least on the fence about Mac Jones at this point.
I would agree.
And we're kind of wasting time, especially his time, Bill, because he ain't getting any younger.
But if they would take if they're at 14, let's say that they were 9. Then I would sit there and say, you're on the fence, like Evan just said. You got to do something to move up and get Stroud or Young.
Yeah, because you don't have time for a project with like Levis or
Levi's.
Levi's. Sorry, I mispronounced that.
Is that the one you really don't like?
Really don't like.
Will Dungarees? No,
I like him.
No,
I like him more than you. Then
Levis is. We'll get to that.
Silbert in New York.
Next week we'll start our draft podcasts. Next week,
great.
And we'll start off with quarterbacks.
Okay, next week, great. Silbert in New York says getting Lamar should be a no-brainer. Everyone is up in arms about the draft picks. Trade them. Bill has 3 number 1 picks: Cole Strange, Mac Jones, N'Keal Harry. I'm trading those players for Lamar. Get Lamar, pay him what he wants, and be relevant. Okay.
Okay, so now what happens if Baltimore decides to match?
Then now you're stuck with Mac Jones, who knows that you want it.
Well, this is my point. Like, I think that's a better alternative. We had a nice show on Tuesday without you, Deuce. Throwing cold water on our excitement for a guy who actually has won an MVP in this league. But I just think it's messy. It's not as simple as snap your fingers, bite the bullet, and do it. Now you have to hope the other team doesn't match.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think if they wanted to trade him to you, I think they'd be calling you.
But if the number one reason why you don't do it is because you're going to create a mess if you don't get him, then I say do it.
Well,
because you've already created a mess.
I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying just because you do it doesn't mean you're going to get it.
No, I know. You may not get it, and that makes things that are bad worse. But
I don't worry about that.
Like if
the guy can either play or he can't play.
That's what I mean. I'm not. If you really you sit down with Mac, listen, you're not Lamar Jackson.
Plus, I'm going to judge.
You know that. We know that. We didn't get him. You're our quarterback.
I'm going to judge the 23 years of Belichick. I'm going to assume if they made an offer sheet for Lamar Jackson, clearly wanting to move on from Mac and sign Lamar, and it fell through. I'm completely convinced, based on the previous 23 years, that then Mac Jones would turn out to be an All-Pro.
Right.
Right. Because that's what happens with Bill. He tries to do something different. It doesn't work.
Works out.
He has to fall back on this plan, and it ends up being the better plan, and everybody tells him, oh, what a brilliant mind.
And it's what we were thinking all the time.
What a brilliant mind.
ultimately,
Did you see how he motivated Mac?
That's what we're gonna get if this whole tough love act works. Is that's what a genius move by
the
Bill.
guy has never made a mistake.
Well, what if it does work?
2022.
If it works, it's because Mac Jones is actually good at football, not because Bill did this.
And Bill knew that, and he had to get the best out of him.
You see? You see?
Yeah.
You see what I deal with?
Mike writes in, and I'm not sure where he's getting this, but he says, I believe Groh made the picks last year, minus the strange pick. I think you will.
Minus the biggest.
You just
pick
don't
in
get the
draft.
first round.
I think you will see Bill.
That's the opposite of my Bill can do no wrong.
Right.
Bill could do no right in that
I think you will see Bill picks in this year's draft. In other words, he's trading down. I expect a defensive end or tight end picked late first or second round. Corners and tackles will grab later as usual. I don't like it, but I see it coming.
Yeah, I don't like it either. What Evan's been saying, you need guys that can play at premium positions, and you don't get those guys by trading down. And to tie it into Paul's point, they aren't the same guys. So you trade down to 20, you might think that, I'm getting the same guy, but I had a tough time unless it's a wow, that's a slam dunk at 20 once you get there, and that makes sense. And you're at a different time now. You need really good players. That's what lacks on this team. And
I'm with you now,
Paul.
I feel like this draft, we always go back to the Dante Hightower, Chandler Jones perfect weekend, right? That's what we all. But that type of draft, they traded up, right? I think twice. That's the type of draft that I feel like they need now.
You got 11 picks,
right? And that's the great thing about him being here for so long and being the guy that's making all the decisions. There's evidence of them doing pretty much everything, right? So you can say, we want them to trade up, and they did it in 2012, so they might do it again. We can do that, whole song.
I think, and I did this probably 2 years ago. He's made as many trades up as he has down. The difference is more often than not, high in the draft, it's down.
Yeah.
That's the outlier, is the Chandler Jones, Dante Hightower.
Well, even he went down with Mayo when
Yeah.
L from Wisconsin, few quick hits, he says. First, he says, Evan's a great addition. Don't always agree, but the passion's great. One, I think this is the team. We're looking at it. I'd be shocked if there are any game-changing additions, even through the draft. Two, if we went back to 2019 and tried to see the worst-case scenario for post-Brady, what would you say? I think we're pretty darn close to it.
Well, I mean, come on. Do you know what a 2-win season looks like?
No, I would say, instead of Mac Jones, you drafted Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
That would be worst, the worst nightmare.
But even with him,
because you wouldn't be a playoff team, you wouldn't have won. You wouldn't have made the playoffs.
I probably agree with you there, but really, at the end of the day, I don't see a monumental difference. You know what I mean? I feel like if Zach Wilson was here,
this is a great show for me.
You think Zach Wilson would be as good as Mac?
Maybe.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, as good as Mac,
I could make the argument that
Mac.
I could definitely make the argument that Zach Wilson would be better if he was on the Patriots and he was getting coached by Belichick.
Zach Wilson was not good in college. Yeah. Zach Wilson has never been good.
I thought he was a tad overrated, but the skills are undeniable. But
the skills in clearly shorts and a t-shirt.
Clearly, he is not at the aptitude that you need because he makes the same. Mistakes.
Error repeaters.
And here's a conspiracy theory from L. He says Bill is pissed that he was forced to move on from Matt Patricia, and he doesn't get the players to make the offense better, and then the offense still struggles, and he can sit back and say, hey, it wasn't Matt's fault.
I don't know. That's I'm in a pretzel.
That's really cutting off your nose to spite your face type of stuff.
Well, and then he went next level, grad school level, with I'm going to make 3 changes. They're really lateral moves, but everybody's going to say how much better the offense is. You added this guy and that guy and this guy.
Right, so they can't say I wasn't trying.
Still Bill O'Brien for me.
Right.
The one thing that I would not criticize at all is really the entirety of free agency, because I just don't think this was a great free agent class.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up to William, because that's what I thought he was getting at with when he was coming at me was who did you want them to sign? That are you Orlando Brown was what
the free agency is not the part that bothers me. The part that bothers me is that we hear these reports about Hopkins and Judy, and Hopkins I'm not totally sold on either, but you hear all these reports about these guys, and the response always is, well, the Patriots are interested, but not at that price.
That frustrates me too.
at this point in time,
then you're not interested. I always say,
right?
Because that's the price.
You got to pay the price a little bit. Like if Miami sent 6 draft picks to Kansas City for Tyreek Hill. Do you think the Dolphins have any regrets whatsoever from making that trade?
Well, not now, Evan, but when they're in cap hell, like in 2 years, watch.
Right? Yeah.
All right, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. Catch 22 is Pete in Ottawa bought us lunch today. Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate that.
We're on TV today.
Yeah. So Pete in Ottawa bought us lunch. So appreciate that.
Thanks,
Catch
Pete.
22 is coming up. A lot of emails we didn't get to, and if Evan and Alex actually take a breath, maybe they'll read a couple of them. So, yeah. All right.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.